Welcome back to the home of Peter Pan lore and Peter Pan facts here on YouTube. If you have joined us from TikTok, welcome. Consider giving us a subscribe, a like, a follow, that kind of thing. And if you have somehow found this YouTube channel before the TikTok channel, you are a unicorn, and I'm very impressed. Let me know in the comments down below which one you found first, TikTok or YouTube. Either way, thank you so much for being here. Consider giving both channels a like and a subscribe and a follow and whatever. And let's get into today's video. So I am super excited because I have meant to make this video for so very long. It has been in the back of my head for forever, but I think weirdly I always just assumed I had already made it. And I think it's because I talk about this quite a lot. Whether I'm answering you guys' questions, whether we're on a live stream, whether I'm making videos about lore and content and costumes, whatever it is, this particular subject seems to come up quite a lot. And yeah, unashamedly, I will continue to talk about this until the end of time. But finally, we're making a full video about it. And what is that topic? Well, as you can tell from the thumbnail and the description of this video, today we are talking about my favourite Peter Pan actor of all time, Cathy Rigby. And answering the question, why? Why is Cathy Rigby just the best? Cathy Rigby started out as a mere medal-winning gymnast, in 1998 being inducted into the International Gymnasts Hall of Fame. She later worked as a sports commentator for ABC, and then undertook 7 years of intense training vocally and physically to join the world of theatre. Some of the shows she was in included Annie Get Your Gun, South Pacific, and Seussical. She gained a National Broadway Theatre Award, and she has even got a Distinguished Lifetime Service Award from the League of American Theatres and Producers. Not to mention the Tony and Emmy nominations as well. And now into Cathy Rigby's extensive history of Peter Pan. It started in 1974 when she was first offered the role of Peter. She had just turned 20 and was fresh out of her gymnastics career. She took on the role with some trepidation, but ended up absolutely falling in love. She jumped back into the role again in 1990, doing a tour and Broadway theatre. And it wasn't long before she was playing Peter Pan yet again from 1998 to 1999. And then just a few years after that, from 2004 to 2005, she was touring the role again. In 2008, she took on the role yet again at the Benedum Center in Pittsburgh. In 2009, she was back at it again in the Mansion Theater in Missouri. Then, from 2011 to 2013, she did the final Peter Pan tour, and this she did aged 60. She was back in the role again, though, in 2015 for a 15-day run at the Pacific National Exhibition in Vancouver. The show of Peter Pan came to mean quite a lot to the entire family, with Cathy Rigby's husband being producer, one of their daughters playing Jane, one of their nephews playing John, one of their sons playing a pirate and Nana the dog, and several in-laws and a brother of Cathy Rigby's working backstage and front of house. The flying effects in particular got truly spectacular over the years, with Randy Reese and Paul Rubin being her two main fly guys as the years went on. Cathy said in an interview that they were determined to have her Peter be the first Peter to do a flip on a single wire. And we will talk a lot more about Cathy Rigby's flying in a little bit. But for now, let's move on to the main bulk of this video. What makes Cathy Rigby's Peter Pan so special, so perfect, so, in my eyes at least so far, unbeatable and unmatched? My answer to this question has always come in 3 parts. Number 1 is the physicality of how she plays Peter Pan. Number 2 is just the flying, the gymnastics, the ability to do what she does. And number 3 is how she gets him emotionally as a character and how much she seems to actually care.
Kids are either, kind of wild and all over the place and adventuresome, or they're very still and very economical in their movement and really direct and honest, and they don't think so much as they just react.
The reason why it feels so sincere, the reason why I believe it, the reason why it just works is because of all the effort that she has gone to lose herself in this part. She's not playing as this role, she is fully becoming this part. She said that she looked at her own children, her own childhood for inspiration, and she thought about how children exist and how they work, what goes on in their minds and brains and hearts. In an interview with Teen Edition TV, Cathy Rigby said, "The character calls for you to be unpredictable." And she talked about the mischief that is Peter. In another interview with the Today Show, Cathy Rigby said, "You don't have to act like Peter Pan. You become him." All of this is completely evident as you watch her. The physicality of not just being a young child, but being this other ethereal child, the eternal child of being Peter Pan. One of the first times you notice it without really noticing is in the Darling's nursery scene. We first meet Peter as he flies through the window, he lands on the floor, and again we'll talk about the flying later on. He goes through the room with Tinkerbell looking for his shadow, he finds it, he tries to put it on, he wakes Wendy as he starts to cry, he talks to Wendy, Wendy turns the lights up, and what does Peter do? As soon as the lights are on, he is all over the place. He's looking around. He looks at the toys on the floor. He goes into Nana's kennel. He's bouncing up over the beds. He explores every ounce of this room. He only stands still when he is thinking about something serious and important. During the song Neverland, where he's singing to Wendy about his home and talking about it so enthusiastically, like a lullaby, a ballad, a love song for his home, that's when he is at his most still. When he's singing I Got a Crow, the energy is completely different. He is bouncing all over the place, quite literally bouncing off the walls. He's exploring, he is pleased with himself, he is crowing, he is dancing and doing flips, and at the very end tumbles into a split. And this attitude continues all the way through the show. Cathy knows when to switch on a dime, just as Peter is described as doing in the novel and the play. He switches from one mood to the next. One moment he's up, one moment he is down, he's left, he's right, he's up and down, and Cathy is doing this too. And not only is this physically encompassing his character and showing you the literal, pun intended, flighty nature of this character, who does forget everyone and everything over and over again. Every experience is like the first time. As J.M. Barrie tells us on Marooner's Rock, when Captain Hook claws at Peter, Peter feels like he has met unfairness for the very first time. But of course it's not. He's met it many times before, but it hits him twice as hard because he feels like it's for the first time. He has this with his happy things as well. He may feel like every laugh is his first laugh, every joke is the first joke, every game is the first game, because he just forgets and forgets and forgets. And Cathy Rigby shows you this all the time. She shows you in his joy, his sorrow, his laughter, his tears. Every moment is so pure and can switch from 1 second to the next. And not only does this show a fantastic understanding of Peter's character physically, it also, on a literal sense, embodies the stage. Cathy Rigby is not a massive woman, and she manages to take up the entire space that she is given, and some of these theatres are huge. I don't think there is a single inch of any of those set pieces that Cathy Rigby's Peter Pan has not interacted with at some point during the show. But it's not just about being big and all over the place, although that is a huge part of Peter's character. There is also the moments of stillness and somberness, those moments of chosen and deliberate stillness. And they are just as important as the erratic, all over the place, flighty moments as well. Another really small moment of physicality that I very much enjoy is in the home under the ground, where Peter and Wendy are having a conversation, and instead of sitting on the rocking chair, Peter is sitting on the back of it, with his foot up on the armrests. And again, it's so small and so insignificant that you probably would leave the theatre or the cinema or just leave watching this, not really remembering it at all. But when you look at that scene and you see the physicality and the difference between the characters and what Peter is doing, it just fits so naturally, which is probably why you don't notice at first. All these little extra moments that I'm noticing now, oh my god, 100th rewatch of the show, is because it fits and embodies the character of Peter that I know and love so well that you don't even notice, because it's just so him. This also shows itself in such tiny, minuscule moments that you could miss them. But having watched this show far too many times now, I'm starting to notice them even more. There are still moments that I am surprised by when I rewatch this show, because watching Cathy, every single time you notice more and more. And one of the things I noticed on my most recent rewatch was this. And if it means I must prepare. This particular moment is so small and so tiny, and it is a choice that Cathy Rigby might not even have consciously made, but because she understands this character and embodies him so well, it may well have been instinct, I don't know. I would love to see how this moment came into being. So, what is the moment? Well, it's this one. Cathy Rigby, middle of the song, I Won't Grow Up, is sitting as Peter, sitting on the set piece just up the back there. And to get down to the front, to continue with the scene in the song, there is a big mushroom. And what does Peter do? Does he just move past it? You could just jump down and walk past it. No. What does Cathy Rigby's Peter Pan do? He half jumps over it. so casually as well. And that moment really reminded me of a section from the novel where Peter Pan is being described moving through the Neverland, and he's going to the pirate ship, the Jolly Roger, to go and rescue Wendy, Darling, John and Michael and all the lost boys. And J.M. Barrie tells us that Peter moves from land to sea and you wouldn't notice a difference. He is so good at moving across the land and through the water that it doesn't seem like he has switched from walking to swimming. He just moves, as if he hasn't even noticed the terrain has changed. And this moment, so small, so tiny, so inconsequential when you look at the grand scheme of the whole show, this really meant a lot to me, because this is how I know that Cathy Rigby knows the character of Peter Pan. And I know she's read the book because she has talked about it in interviews. She has talked about how J.M. Barrie's descriptions just bring it to life and make it so much more rich, and you get all this understanding that you don't get when you just watch it. And this is one of the big things that I love about her. She has read this character. She knows this character. Cathy Rigby didn't just watch the Disney movie and think, yep, that's it. No, Cathy Rigby read the source material and took the time to understand him. And the fact that she now moves exactly like him. No terrain matters. It's almost as if the mushroom just moved out of the way, because Peter wouldn't even have noticed that he lifted his leg and jumped over it. I realised I just spent a very long time talking about jumping over a mushroom. Let's move on! One of the last bits I'd like to say about the physicality of Cathy Rigby's Peter Pan is the fighting scenes. Now, these have been immaculately choreographed to within an inch of their life, and of course they have to be. On stage, the fighting, the many hours that goes into stage combat is insane, and I have not done nearly enough of it, and I want to do some more. But not just that, this fighting is quick, it's fast, it's choppy. It doesn't look pristine and perfect and like ching, ting, ting, ting. No, it looks rugged and dark. At one point, Peter slices a pirate's throat. It's that kind of fighting that I want. And while I would have liked to have some fake blood, but I appreciate that would get all over the costumes, and the costume department may well have gone insane. Fair enough, absolutely, and kids are watching this show. Fair enough, they didn't use fake blood. I would have done, but that's just me and my bloodthirsty nature. However, Cathy Rigby does not shy away from the darkness of the character of Peter Pan. And again, this comes back to, she read the source material, she knows this character. He's not just some playful, flighty boy. He has darkness to him as well, and she plays that, particularly in the fighting. Her Peter is brutal and bloodthirsty. He is cocky and arrogant with it, but he can be so deadly, and you see this. So not only is the fighting so well choreographed and you can see all of her movements, it also is dark and dangerous, and I really love seeing that side to Peter as well. Alright, let's talk about it then. Let's talk about another part of Cathy Rigby's physical performance of Peter Pan, and let's talk about the flying. There is nothing that I could probably say to convince you that Cathy Rigby's flying as Peter Pan is the best we have ever seen, because all you need to do is watch it. There's a reason for this. Now, yes, many of the other people who have played Peter Pan have been fantastic singers and actors, and the flying has been great. But predominantly, what you will see when you see Peter Pan on the stage in particular is you will see people lifted and hoisted into the air, and they will soar from one side of the stage to the other. They will land, things like this. And very occasionally, they will be able to lean forward in their harness and make it look more like they're flying than they're being lifted like a paper cutout and put back down again. It can all still look fantastic. It's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's amazing. I have seen a Peter Pan and a panto go flying across the audience. It was terrific, it was great. But what was it not? It was not Cathy Rigby, medal-winning gymnast, doing flips in the air, turning round and around and around, doing somersaults, doing all of this while singing, I'll have you know, but also even when she's not singing, just this fantastic ability to exist in the air, to hold herself up, all of this stuff that comes with being the gymnast that she is. And unfortunately, every other Peter who may have fantastic theatre training and vocal training and all of this, sadly, they do not have the gymnastic background that she has. And so quite literally, she cannot be beaten in this because she has so much going for her that no one else playing this role has. And while this doesn't make other Peter Pans any less enjoyable, of course not, it does mean that her flying is so top tier, it is bordering on unattainable to anyone else. Just have a look at these clips. Have a look at them. Roll tape. I'm flying. Flying. Nothing will stop me now. Higher still. Look at how I can zoom around. I'm flying. If you have not yet watched Cathy Rigby as Peter Pan, please go and do so. If you take nothing else away from this video, please go and watch Cathy Rigby as Peter Pan. The full show is available on YouTube, or you can buy the DVD. It's usually quite cheap by now as well. It's definitely worth owning if you want to have it, or you can find it on YouTube as well. So there really isn't much else I can say for this section. The flying footage of Cathy Rigby speaks for itself. It speaks such volumes. And again, it brings us back to the original lore and the story of Peter Pan. He is the most fantastic flyer. He can outfly all of the Lost Boys. We see some of this in the chapter The Flight, where Peter is taking Wendy, John and Michael with him and Tinkerbell to go to the Neverland, and they do a sort of follow my leader game, where Peter dives down and he touches all the tails of the sharks in the water, and then looks behind him to see if the others could do the same, and of course they can't, because no one can keep up with him. He is the best flyer. He is so fast and so agile and nimble in the air. And as J.M. Barrie tells us, Peter moves from different terrains easily, and this includes the air as well. He can go from walking to flying to sitting to running to swimming as easy as breathing. And we definitely see this with Cathy Rigby. For this last section about what makes Cathy Rigby's Peter Pan so special, we're going to look at the emotions that Cathy brings out, the feelings and the qualities that she gives to her Peter, which really show once again that she has read her source material, and she has not just an understanding and comprehension of who this character is, but also what he is and why he is and how he thinks and he feels. In an interview with David Applewood, Cathy Rigby talked about the evolution of the show that she has been a part of for so very long, and as it came into its final round of touring, she talked about how much bigger and better it had gotten. She says, "You not only see the fun flying parts, you also see the darker side of not wanting to grow up, and of growing up, and the loss." And in an interview with CBS, she said, "Peter has become a part of who I am. He keeps me thinking anything is possible." All of this, much like the physicality and the flying, you can see come out in every performance Cathy Rigby gives as Peter Pan. I just believe her. This is the thing I find myself saying over and over again when I'm answering you guys' questions, when you're talking about who's my favourite Peter Pan and why and what makes it so special. It is this: I believe her. I watch her as Peter Pan and I no longer see Cathy Rigby, I see Peter Pan. I have seen many different actors over the years come and go playing Peter Pan. I have seen some of them live in person, some of them we've watched in movies and on the screens, and all of them had their own wit and their own cleverness and their own joy and rapture and their own fantastical natures. But Cathy Rigby is the only one where I watch and there is no question, there is no doubt, there is no hesitancy, there are no moments that take me out of the performance at all. It is Peter Pan, and I am watching him singing and dancing and talking to all these characters on this stage. Cathy Rigby completely disappears and is replaced by completely Peter Pan. And this is because not only does she physically understand him, not only is she able to fly like him, but she also emotionally understands him as well. And again, she has very obviously read the source material. You see so much, a bit like the physicality where Peter can go from one thing to the other. He can go from up to down, happy to sad, laughing to crying, and it all spins on a dime along with Peter himself spinning and dancing in the air. You see him when he talks to Wendy and how he goes in those moments from happy to sad to standing up for himself to feeling like she's insulting him to crying over his shadow. And then a few moments later when talking to Wendy, he lifts up the shadow and says, "Yep, dead," as if he just doesn't care. It's a riot of emotions all bubbling under the surface, ready to come out any moment. And everything feels genuine, nothing feels forced, particularly the comedy and the sadness, the two big extremes, when Peter is doing things that the audience find funny. And it's very easy to forget, Peter is quite a funny character. He has a lot of quippy lines that he himself doesn't know are funny, but particularly when you're watching on the stage, it's very entertaining. And all of these moments where he is doing things either deliberately in the character in the moment to be funny, or just saying things the audience finds funny, and they all feel real and genuine. They don't feel forced. There's no posturing with her Peter. It's all real. Every time he laughs or makes someone else laugh, it's real and genuine. And every time he makes the audience laugh, it's not an actor trying their best to drum up giggles. It is the character just existing and us finding it funny. Thinking of the opposite end of the spectrum of those big moments where we've got the comedy and then we've got the sadness and the sorrow, the tragedy of Peter's character. And the big moments that I think of are the scene in the home under the ground, all the way from Wendy and the Lost Boys deciding to leave up to Tinkerbell very nearly dying and Peter having to save her. And also, of course, that Marooners Rock scene, which is one of my favourites. We'll go chronologically and we'll start with Maruna's Rock then. So this is the beautiful scene that leads up to Peter Pan standing up and saying, "To die will be an awfully big adventure." Now before this, we've had some of his joy and rapture. We've seen him jumping up and down, imitating Captain Hook, the joy of the fight, the thrill, all of those physical moments we've seen of Peter. And then another physical moment where he leaps up in the air, crowing over and over again. He's jumping up, he's jumping down, and then Captain Hook comes up behind him. And Peter experiences for what he believes is the first time, and you can really see this happening on Cathy Rigby's face, you can see Peter thinking, this is the first unfairness. He even says bad form to Captain Hook in their script. And as Captain Hook claws at Peter and flings him off the rock, and Peter flies out, unable for the first time to control his own flying, and then slams into the rock face first, you see it all on Cathy Rigby's face. You see Peter shocked and terrified and scared, and while the show doesn't have blood, you can see him clutching himself. He's injured, he's wounded, and he's afraid he's going to die. This scene continues in that heightened sense of terror, and again, this is a physical moment of stillness for Peter, a stillness that is worrying and concerning. He should be elated and jumping all over the place, but now he is hunched over, holding on to himself. He flings the fairy dust at Wendy and sends her away, knowing that he is going to drown on this rock, unable to fly or swim. And as Cathy Rigby's Peter stands there, clutching at the wound, but standing straight and tall, you see Peter rise up and stand there as proud and erect as he possibly can. And as the line comes out of her mouth, you hear, "To die will be an awfully big adventure." And again, I just believe it. This is the huge, big moment of actual vulnerability for Peter. And the biggest part of that is that it happens all by himself. He's standing in the dark on Maruna's Rock, watching the tide rise, thinking he's about to drown. And he says to nobody and to himself that to die will be an awfully big adventure. And it's his final act of bravery and defiance and trying to convince himself that everything will be fine, because everything is crashing down on him and he is facing his own demise for what he believes is the first time. And Cathy Rigby, once again, knocks it out the park, and I believe her. That vulnerability, that saying something that you never thought you'd have to say, that moment of terror as you look your own death in the face, everything's there. I love it. And then we have another huge, emotionally sad moment for Peter, and this is most of the Home Under the Ground scene at the end of the show. So Wendy and the Lost Boys are all playing around, and then they decide they're going to go home, and Wendy and Peter have this conversation where Wendy is saying, "Well, what are you to me? What are your feelings towards me?" And Peter tells her what she already knew, which is those of a devoted son. And Peter doesn't understand what Wendy wants from him, and Wendy can't explain to him because she knows he can never ever give it. And Peter is confused, and Wendy is sad, and they're all leaving, and he can't understand why. And he's trying to, but it just doesn't make any sense to him. And you see all of this on his face, and you see it in tiny moments, again, in a little sort of shrug and shoulder roll as Peter walks away from Wendy, as he's trying to almost dismiss the feelings himself before Wendy starts to sing her lullaby. These tiny little gestures and choices and acting decisions made that I still firmly believe are just so naturally coming to Cathy Rigby that she's not even consciously thinking about them, but they show just how much she is emotionally connected and understanding of this character. And as Peter sits, he sings the lullaby with Wendy, that refrain, he reaches out, but no one is coming to him because, as they used in the script of this play, Peter said to Wendy at the beginning of the show, "No one touches me. No one must ever touch me." And this is one of my favourite lines you'll have heard me talk about before. It was written for Jean Forbes Robertson, who is an eerie, unearthly Peter Pan. I love it. I think more people should use it. And actually, if you look at the film version of Cathy Rigby's show, very rarely is Peter touched by anyone. And that is very important to me. As a Peter Pan lore hobbyist and enthusiast, I absolutely love it. And it adds to that physicality and that nature and the otherworldliness of Peter and his emotional vulnerability in the fact that he can't understand or connect truly and properly. At the end of that lullaby song, Peter has reached out, but no one has come to him, and he is kneeling on the floor, but Wendy and her brothers are stood, ready to go home, and they are holding on to each other because it's the joy Peter is always going to be barred out of. He cannot have it. He doesn't necessarily understand or want it, but nonetheless, he knows he's missing that. And it's just so very sad in that moment. And Cathy Rigby captures that perfectly. Moving on later in the scene, after Wendy and the Lost Boys have all gone, and we've had that moment and that dialogue of Peter pretending he doesn't care, but the audience sees the look on his face even though Wendy doesn't. We have Tinkerbell coming in and Peter having to save her from dying. And the beautiful chemistry between Peter and Tink at this point is so apparent. We have seen their characters change and evolve around each other quite a lot through the course of the show. At the beginning, Peter and Tinkerbell are together in cahoots to get his shadow, and then Tinkerbell annoys him when she pulls on Wendy's hair and then attempts to kill Wendy, and Peter banishes her away. But now he cares about her more than anyone else in the entire world. And as he turns to the audience, tears streaming down his face to please, please believe in fairies, clap your hands, say you believe in fairies. It's huge and emotional, and if you weren't gut punched by it, then my God, I'm impressed. Every choice that Cathy Rigby makes in this scene, it's just so very fitting of Peter. And there is the franticness of the moving around, getting to Tinkerbell, but then that stillness that's scary. The terrified stillness of a child who doesn't know what to do. Welcome back. It is very, very warm, and I've just done a full day of work. So me and the very excited dog, can you tell how excited this dog is? We are going to be watching Cathy Rigby as Peter Pan, and I'm going to show you some of my favourite moments and clips and snippets, and just do a little bit more chat about it before we end this video. So come along with us for the ride of watching Cathy Rigby as Peter Pan. Here she comes, here she comes. You excited? Look at this excited face. You're so excited! I'm just going to get all nerdy and theatre kid on you for a second, but in a minute there is a moment similar to in the play where it's been deliberately staged so that Peter can get his flying wire off. So watch this. So Peter has just flown in, and he looks around for a bit, and then flies away and hides behind the curtain. While he's hidden behind the curtain, the flying wire gets taken off so that he can come and do the rest of the scene without it being attached to him. Love these moments. Coming up is one of my favourite comedy moments.
What's your name? Wendy, Moira, Angela, darling. What's your name? Peter Pan? Is that all? Yes. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, another super mega important moment coming up that I've talked about in this video already. So this is the bit that I talk about Jean Forbes Robertson and the line that was added in for her about no one ever touching Peter. And here it is in this show, which I was not expecting when I first watched it.
Don't have a mother. Oh, Peter mustn't touch me. Why? No one has ever touched me.
Yes! The dog is very concerned about Peter's shadow, as you can tell. Are you concerned? Do you have concern? One day I'm going to do another ranking video and I'm going to compare specific versions of Peter doing specific songs, and this is one of the ones I'm going to use because Cathy Rigby doing every song is amazing, but this one in particular, and this is the first time we hear Peter sing, just look at all this. Look at the chaos. While singing! Ridiculously amazing. Ridiculous! And so very Peter, it hurts. Still enjoying it? Loving it. Every time I watch this show, I realise just how glittery Cathy is all the way through. You can see bits stuck to her right now, and it just keeps going all the way through the show. It's brilliant. And a fun little game I've started playing is spotting where all the glitter pots are, where she can like pick up more glitter to throw at people. There's some in like Marina's Rock and on the shelves and stuff, I think. So, fun games to play. Just see how glittery it gets. And as a fellow glittery being, I encourage this chaos. When I first watched this show, I remember watching I'm Flying and thinking there was not enough glitter in that tiny, tiny pouch to last this entire song, because Peter is sprinkling glitter everywhere, like throwing it everywhere. And then I started to spot the glitter pots, and here's one of my favourite ones. It's hidden just in this corner here, and you can see Cathy goes for it and grabs some glitter before she takes off flying again. There she goes, there she goes, there she goes. She's got a handful, there she goes, there it is. More glitter! And we're back with, once more, things that I've only spotted on this rewatch of Peter Pan. So we're on Marina's Rock. Look at this sword. I want it so badly. It's got a leaf in the handle. Wait for it. There it is, look! That is a beautiful fucking sword and I want it so badly. Also, hidden glitter pot down here. Hidden glitter pot. Cathy Rigby has been holding on to herself this entire time, holding on to the wound, and the other hand had a sword in it, and now she has a handful of glitter. And where did she get it? Somewhere down there. I love it! That is going to be it for this video today, but believe me, I could talk about Cathy Rigby as Peter Pan for absolutely ages, but this video is plenty long enough already. I hope that I've convinced those of you who have not watched this show before to go and give it a watch, or at least see some snippets of it in clips maybe, and I hope those of you who have seen it have remembered just how fantastic Cathy is and might want to go check it out again. It is available on YouTube or on DVD if you want to go and buy it, or rent it, or watch it. As always, thank you so much for engaging with this content. It blows me away every time that you guys are interested in half the things I have to say about the world of Peter Pan and the lore of the Neverland. If you have any thoughts, theories, or questions, chuck them down into the comments below. And if you fancy heading over to TikTok, you can put them in the comments over there as well, and I will give you an answer or a video reply as well, as sometimes I do that over there as well. I will be back in the next couple of weeks with another lore drop for you, and I'll be bringing the next part of the 120 years of Peter Pan costuming history, where we're looking at the most unique of Peter Pan costumes, and I am currently working on a costume of my very own based on one of my favourite very unique Peter costumes as well. So that'll all be coming to you very, very soon. For now, have a wonderful rest of your day, an amazing rest of your week. Don't forget to hydrate, be good to each other, and I will see you very, very soon. Also, in the comments down below, to let me know you got to the very end of this video, who is your favourite Peter Pan actor? Let me know in the comments down below.